A long time ago, there was a single genre that dominated our box office and television screens alike. In 1958, there were 50 Western television shows on air. There were only 3 channels. To say that the entire industry back then was dominated by a single genre is an understatement. When this popularity of the Western genre began to decline, the popularity rose again with Italian directors casting American actors in their lower budget Western films, also known as the spaghetti Western. But in 1974, one movie came along, taking all of the interest in the oversaturated genre away. Mel Brooks' Blazing Saddles. If you want to learn more about this film's impact on the Western genre or the film industry as a whole, definitely check out Infonaut's video, You Couldn't Make Blazing Saddles Today. It is far more thorough and well-researched than the case I am planning on making today. Today, there is a single genre that plagues our cinemas and television screens alike. In 2019, there were 13 movies based off comic books released in cinemas. I believe the superhero genre is more than ready for its Blazing Saddles, a satire that shakes the audience awake from its blind love of a dying genre. The only problem? The spoof movie is dead. Parody films have never been particularly popular, but after Mel Brooks' success with Blazing Saddles, it became his genre of choice. Shortly after the success of Blazing Saddles, Brooks focused on his love for silent-era films as well as the early pioneers in the horror genre, with his films A Silent Movie and Young Frankenstein. Later in his career, he'd make other spoof movies that were slightly less successful, like Robin Hood Men in Tights, Spaceballs, Dracula, Dead and Loving It, all poking fun at popular movie trends of the time, but a little less brilliantly than he did originally with Blazing Saddles. Around the same time as Blazing Saddles, other pioneers in the spoof genre, Monty Python, made their first movie Holy Grail, although less in scale and production value, had a very similar meta conclusion, revealing that the characters and stakes, or rather lack thereof, are just characters and consequences in a movie. Monty Python, the legendary comedy group, comprised of Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, and Eric Idle, just to name a few, continued making grander, yet intelligently written parodies with Life of Brian and Meaning of Life, where instead of focusing or riffing on certain genre of movies, they parodied the aesthetics and the themes of many great epics before them. Personally, I feel the auteurs that maximized the potential of the spoof genre were Jim Abrams and David and Jerry Zucker. Their 1980 hit film Airplane spoofed the ever-popular disaster movie of the 1970s. After this film, we got a sequel. Both are seen as classics because of their dry humor, visual gags, and absurd comedy. The trio also worked together on Hot Shots, Top Secret, and Hot Shots Part 2. Top Secret is perhaps my favorite of the trio's filmography, mostly for its absurd premise of making fun of the Elvis Presley movies of the early 1960s. It also has some of the most impressive visual gags and comedic set pieces ever. David Zucker certainly became the standout of the trio of filmmakers because he continued making spoof movies for decades after the trio's original run of films. The last project the 3 of them worked together on was The Naked Gun, a continuation of their failed TV show Police Squad. This was the biggest financial success out of all of their movies and garnished 2 equally successful sequels. The biggest and probably most notable spoof franchise besides Naked Gun is the Scary Movie movies, which I like to call the death of the genre. Although the first 2 Scary Movies were funny and did poke holes at some of the tropes in cheesy 1990s horror films, the formula got rather stale by the 3rd entry, Scary Movie 3. However, 2 of the hack writers and producers of the franchise, Aaron Seltzer and Jason Friedberg, kept making these cinematic dumpster fires as they progressively got exponentially worse and worse. Date movie, Scary Movie 4, Epic Movie, Meet the Spartans, Disaster Movie, Vampires Suck, Scary Movie 5, and The Starving Games. These movies were horrible for just having the most raunchy, inappropriate jokes, and their whole process of writing was pretty much just stealing scenes from popular movies and then like adding a diarrhea joke.
You are truly invincible.
Oh my god, you shot my guy! Why would you do that?
All this history on spoof movies just brings me to my main point, that the superhero genre needs its Blazing Saddles. A few attempts have been made, sort of. David Zucker produced a movie from one of the writers of Scary Movie, superhero movie, which primarily focused and spoofed the Spider-Man and X-Men movies of the early 2000s. While this movie had interesting material, it doesn't really do a good job of spoofing the superhero genre as a whole because it came out before the peak of this genre with the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it suffered the same unbearably unfunny humor that the Scary Movie franchise is known for. On the topic of superheroes and satire, I feel The Boys, a new TV series on Amazon, offered tons of social commentary to the way we idolize celebrities and superhero culture in our society. But due to its own narrative taking precedence over the breakdown of the genre, I'd say it's nothing more than a step in the right direction. I think this superhero parody movie is sooner than ever. 2020 has been perhaps the scariest year for the film industry in its long history. Due to the global pandemic, theaters are closed, the production and release of movies are being delayed, and the largest Cineplex chain in the entire world is filing for bankruptcy. Now more than ever, we need a hero. A film to end the hero movies, and a film to breathe new ideas and life into the entertainment industry. I am Nathaniel R. Martin. Thanks for watching.